hey, happy Friday. I wrote this whole episode while I was on a train. I hope you like it, and thanks to Deutsche Bahn for an unusually punctual and smooth ride. Anyway, this week Samsung first released and then unreleased its web browser for Windows. Also, Samsung had some very interesting new sales data come out about them, and Amazon tried to become the new AI darling. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. This video was sponsored by Brilliant. Okay, we start our brief with Apple, who has pulled the plug on its partnership with Goldman Sachs on its credit card, and the company will exit this deal within the next 12 to 15 months, and then it will either find a new partner like Amex, or it will take on the whole banking business itself, or quit the project. Meanwhile, still at Apple, we also learned that the company is rumored to have given up on its attempts to build its 5G modems after several unsuccessful attempts, and after spending $1 billion to acquire Intel's modem business. The sources on this rumor are somewhat reliable, but this would be just such a huge defeat that I really want to hear some official confirmation until I can believe it. Then, moving on from Apple, Xiaomi has just released its Redmi K70 series with Lamborghini branding. Why these supposed luxury brands sell their names to budget brands continues to baffle me, but you could now say that you own a Redmi phone with a Lamborghini logo that an actual Lamborghini owner would never even want to get close to. Nice! And also this week we learned that Microsoft's Phone Link may soon let you use your Android phone as a webcam, with APK teardowns revealing that they are working on this. Webcam syncing was one of the last big iPhone to Mac syncing features that Microsoft's app didn't have yet, but given that Phone Link already does clipboard syncing and screen and app mirroring and a whole lot more, it means that Microsoft's solution could soon overtake what the Apple ecosystem is capable of. Never thought I'd see the day. And while we're at Microsoft, the DALL-E image generator was just added to Paint in Windows 11, and you can just enter a description of something that you want, and the program will generate 3 versions of the image for you to choose from. They're really pushing Paint to become a serious image editor these days, kind of surprising. And still in Microsoft land, the company's ugly sweater this holiday is Windows XP's default wallpaper. And my take is that it's not ugly enough for a supposed ugly sweater, and it's also already sold out, so there we go. Moving on, Reddit updated its brand with a new typeface, which is open source and downloadable, and it also made its SNU mascot 3D, and all of this is probably because the company is preparing for their upcoming IPO, so stay tuned for that. And also this week, the first real Cybertrucks have finally arrived. They start at a significantly higher than expected $60,000 for a minimum spec, and more like maybe 80 or 90 for something that you'd actually want. But real customers have gotten their first deliveries now, so they can confidently drive around in a bulletproof stainless steel tank that was specifically designed to kill pedestrians and cyclists as soon as they touch them. Get out of my way, plebs! And in somewhat cute news, a 10-year-old boy with glasses has started a petition to get Apple to change the nerd glasses emoji to more of a genius than the rabbit tooth nerd look. And you know what? As a nerdy dude who's dorky and wears glasses, I agree. Except I think he should petition Unicode, not just Apple, because it's kind of everyone doing the same. Okay, and for my first story of the week, we have to talk about 2 very unexpected twists about the Samsung web browser. So first, the company earlier this week launched Samsung Internet for Windows. That's a pretty big deal. Now, you might know Samsung Internet as the default web browser on Samsung's Android phones, where it actually works really well, and where it even has a pretty nice desktop mode using DeX. But this week, it appeared in the Windows Store for PCs without an announcement for about 1 full day, where lots of people downloaded it, but then it also got pulled, again with no announcement. I couldn't try it before it was pulled, but people who did claimed that it was very buggy, it had design issues, it lagged, it didn't have extension support or advanced syncing, etc. This makes very little sense, especially given that Samsung Internet uses Chromium, so it should be able to handle pages exactly as well as Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, for example. So all of this makes me think that the browser was actually released by accident before it was finished, which would kind of explain why there was no announcement of the whole thing to begin with. I mean, having such a massive release accidentally go out to the public and then waiting like a full day before it's pulled is just really really brutal in my opinion. But anyway, if they finally get their act together and release the final thing, then I think this will be pretty exciting. New competition. And as a side note for browser nerds, Firefox's Android browser will get proper extension support again starting on December 14th, when open extensions return to the browser on Android after 3 years of limited support, and 400 plus new Firefox for Android extensions will be available, including more ad blockers, and developers can now make their desktop extensions compatible with Firefox for Android for that launch event if they want to. I'm personally Team Firefox, so that's pretty cool. Okay, and for our second story of the week, we are sticking with Samsung because we learned some really interesting things about the company from their sales figures. A new report from Hana Securities in Korea shows that the S23 series has seen a massive 23% increase in sales versus last year's Galaxy S22 series, with especially the Ultra doing incredibly well as the top-selling model. And meanwhile, the Fold and the Flip 5 only saw a 4% boost versus last year's models, while the company's overall portfolio actually shrank, meaning that this was a pretty tough time for the low-end devices, and I find this interesting for a few reasons. First, we continue to see this kind of premiumification. Even though the smartphone market as a whole is down to the worst sales figures that we've seen in 10 years, the flagship segment for companies like Apple and Samsung is actually doing great, and especially phones like the Ultra. But second, foldables growth at only 4% is actually pretty terrible in my opinion, and it's even worse that all of that growth actually came from the Flip, whereas the Fold 5 actually sold slightly worse than the 4 did. The foldables category overall is expected to grow by something like 40% this year, so the Galaxy Fold not growing means that Samsung is actually falling behind, and the company is finally feeling the pain of their tiny iterative updates as their Chinese competitors are actually gaining ground. And to make up for that in good news, we thankfully also have our first rumors that both the Fold 6 and the Flip 6 will have much bigger outdoor displays next year, which hopefully means new form factors, which Samsung really needs. Thanks competition, I guess. I'm still on my Galaxy Z Fold 3, so I really hope Samsung delivers with the 6 this year. Okay, and for my third story of the week, Amazon at their big developer conference this year basically said, hey, you know how Microsoft is becoming the AI darling in the cloud space, like all the fancy AI companies like OpenAI want to run their stuff on the Microsoft cloud? Well, whatever Microsoft can do, Big Daddy Amazon can do as well. They released a gigantic new 96-core ARM chip for servers called the Graviton 4, which is close to the 128-core chip that Microsoft recently announced with the Azure Cobalt CPU. Then Amazon also released its second-generation AI accelerator called Trainium 2, which will train foundation models 4 times faster than the first gen and should match Microsoft's Maya AI chip. Beyond that, AWS is now also the first cloud to deploy NVIDIA's brand new GH200 chips as well, so you now have the full chip roster. In addition, Amazon will basically also offer humans for rent who will manually test AI models for its clients for things like bias, which is pretty crazy. And Amazon also launched its own image generation model, plus also an AI assistant called Q, which lets users ask questions about the data that their company stores on Amazon's cloud. For example, you could ask it why a colleague left a particular line of code somewhere. Given that I find the AWS interface basically borderline hostile for anyone who is not a full-time developer, I guess that's a good thing. I'd rather talk to an AI than figure any of that out. And the only real consumer-facing product that the company revealed was their new $270 third-gen Echo frames, which are similar to the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, except these come with Alexa, but they don't have any cameras, so I actually find them pretty boring compared to the Ray-Bans. So Amazon went all in on the B2B stuff, which I guess means that they don't consider consumer AI applications as the big money generator, but instead they consider Microsoft their biggest threat, and they think that selling other app makers the tools and the cloud services to build their AI applications is the real business. And I can't fault them for that. They've already lost tens of billions of dollars trying to make their Echo business work, so there's that. Now, the world is truly getting eaten by AI, there's no doubt about that. And if you want to understand how many of these technologies, like large language models, actually work, then check this out. Brilliant has a new and fantastic course explaining just that. It goes from beginner to advanced concepts, and it helps you get a real deep grasp of the mechanisms under the hood. Oh, and like always on Brilliant, it is a completely interactive course from beginning to the end, where you get a practice exercise at the end of every little learning to make sure that you actually get to test your knowledge and memorize the key learnings effectively. Brilliant is the best online learning platform for learning STEM skills, from computer science to physics, chemistry, biology, maths, and more. And it's a great resource for students who are trying to get ahead in school, or for professionals who want to upgrade their skills, or for anyone who just wants to learn something new. Their courses are carefully created to guide you from basic principles and beginner levels all the way to more advanced topics like quantum computing and machine learning. The actual learnings are broken down into small, easily digestible chunks, and the learnings are then always practiced with interactive lessons right away. This active participation helps you learn way more effectively than just passively reading a book or watching a video, and of course it's also a whole lot more fun. You can use Brilliant for free at brilliant.org/TFC, which is also linked down in the description, and the first 200 people who sign up using that link will also get 20% off their annual premium subscription if they choose to get one. So check them out, happy learning, and I'll see you next Friday.